A diamond is one of the most common precious stones on Earth. You've been told the opposite your entire life. You've been told it's rare, that it's an investment, that 2 months of your salary is a reasonable price to pay for one. None of that is an accident. Every part of it was designed, the price, the ring, the idea that a diamond means love, by a single company over about 80 years, spending billions to make you believe a rock was priceless. It worked. That company grew into a diamond empire worth around $18 billion. Now hold on to that number, because right now, that same empire is being sold off for about $1 billion, roughly the price of a mid-tier app. So here's the question nobody seems to ask. If the rarity was manufactured, what happens the moment someone can manufacture the diamond? That's happening right now. The greatest marketing machine in history convinced the whole planet a common rock was priceless, and that same machine is the thing now burying the company that built it. By the end of this, you'll see exactly how a lie this profitable collapses. Start in 1888. A man named Cecil Rhodes founds De Beers in South Africa. Within a couple of years, he isn't just mining diamonds, he's buying up nearly every mine that matters, until by 1890, one company controls around 90% of the world's rough diamond production. That explanation, they had a monopoly, is not wrong. But it's the equivalent of explaining how a casino works by saying, people come in and play games. The monopoly was step one. It was the boring step. Here's what a monopoly on supply actually lets you do. Diamonds were coming out of the ground faster than anyone wanted to buy them. A normal market would let the price fall. De Beers did the opposite. It locked the extra diamonds in a vault and released only a trickle. Artificial scarcity enforced by one company's warehouse. And it enforced that scarcity with a system so brazen, it's almost admirable. A few times a year, about 10, De Beers ran a sale in London through an arm called the Central Selling Organization. It invited 100 or so hand-picked dealers, called sightholders. They did not shop. Each was handed a sealed box, filled by De Beers, priced by De Beers. You could take the box at the price on it, or you could leave it. What you could not do was negotiate. And if you turned a box down, you risked never being invited back. That is not a market. That is one company handing out the world's diamonds like ration cards. But controlling supply only sets the price. It doesn't create the desire. And in the 1930s, desire was a problem. Diamond sales were weak, and on the eve of the Second World War, only about 1 in 10 engagement rings even had a diamond in it. People did not think they needed one. So in 1938, De Beers hired an ad agency called N.W. Ayer. Within 3 years, U.S. diamond sales were up 55%, and in 1947, one of the agency's copywriters, a woman named Frances Garrity, scribbled down 4 words before bed that would rewire a global custom. A diamond is forever. Think about what that sentence does. If a diamond is forever, you can never sell it. Reselling would admit it has a resale value, and a low one. So the second-hand market never forms. Every diamond stays locked in a drawer as an heirloom. Supply stays scarce not because diamonds are rare, but because you were told it's tacky to sell one. That is not a slogan. That is a business model disguised as romance. De Beers went further. The 2-month salary rule? Invented by the same marketing machine. It started as 1 month's salary in the 1930s, and the agency quietly upgraded it to 2 by the 1980s, with the line, "Isn't 2-month salary a small price to pay for something that lasts forever?" They didn't find a tradition. They manufactured one and sold it back to us as if it were ancient. By the end of the century, that 1 in 10 engagement ring had become 4 in 5. And if you think that only worked on Americans who were already halfway there, consider Japan. In 1967, De Beers pointed the same machine at a country where the diamond engagement ring simply did not exist. Fewer than 5 in 100 Japanese brides wore one. Diamonds weren't part of the culture, and that culture was over 1,000 years old. So De Beers invented a place for them. It sold the diamond as a badge of modern Western success, and told men to spend 3-month salary on it. In about 13 years, the share of Japanese brides wearing a diamond went from under 5% to roughly 60%. A 1,500-year-old tradition, rewritten by an ad campaign, and Japan became the second-largest diamond market on Earth. That is the tell. If the desire were real, you could not manufacture it on demand in another hemisphere in a decade. The con was complete. A common stone sold at an enormous markup that you were socially forbidden from ever reselling. In 1999, Ad Age named "A Diamond is Forever" the single greatest advertising slogan of the 20th century. It should have called it the most profitable lie of the 20th century. So, why would a machine this perfect ever break? Here is the fragile assumption the whole thing rests on. Not, diamonds are beautiful, they are. The assumption is, a diamond is rare, and only the earth can make one. Both halves of that were always shaky. Diamonds aren't actually rare, not the way the price implies. The scarcity you see at the jewelry counter is the warehouse, not the geology. De Beers spent a century withholding supply to make sure you never saw the warehouse. A diamond investigator named Edward J. Epstein laid the whole scheme out back in 1982 in an Atlantic article with a title that says everything. Have you ever tried to sell a diamond? Spoiler, you can't, not for anything close to what you paid. And only the earth can make one? That one had a ticking clock on it since December of 1954, when an engineer named Tracy Hall, working at General Electric, made the first real synthetic diamond in a lab. For decades, those were industrial, gritty, small, good for drill bits, not rings. De Beers wasn't worried. It even used them. But labs kept getting better. And better here means something very specific and very dangerous for De Beers. A lab-grown diamond is not a fake. It is not cubic zirconia. It is a real diamond. Same carbon, same crystal structure, same sparkle. Chemically and optically identical, indistinguishable to the eye and to most jewelers' instruments. So what happens to an 80-year-old story about rarity when a factory can grow the exact same stone in a couple of weeks for a fraction of the price? We're finding out. In the last few years, gem-quality lab-grown diamonds went mainstream, and the price gap became a canyon. Lab-grown prices fell about 74% between 2020 and 2024 as production capacity exploded. By 2024, lab-grown stones were more than 45% of all engagement ring purchases in the United States. Not a niche, the plurality. And the natural diamonds, the real ones, the investment ones, their price fell off a cliff. Rough natural diamond prices dropped somewhere around 34 to 38% from their 2022 peak, the steepest decline in the modern history of the market, to the lowest level this century. Here's where it gets strange. The scarcity De Beers manufactured only works in one direction. When you're the one hoarding supply, artificial scarcity prints money. But the moment a competitor can make unlimited supply, your pricing power evaporates, because the thing you were selling was never the diamond. It was the scarcity. And scarcity is the one thing a factory destroys for free. De Beers saw it coming and did something almost poetic. In 2018, it launched its own lab-grown brand, Lightbox, at a flat $800 a carat, deliberately cheap, trying to frame lab diamonds as fun costume jewelry, not real ones. It was an attempt to sandbag its own competition. It was also an admission. The company that spent 80 years insisting only the earth makes a real diamond was now growing them in a factory and selling them by the carat. It didn't work. By 2024, De Beers had cut Lightbox to $500 a carat. And in 2025, it gave up and announced it was shutting Lightbox down entirely. The math does not work anymore. The strategy that built the empire, control supply, sell belief, requires that supply be controllable. It no longer is. So let's name what's actually collapsing, because it isn't the diamond. The two stones on screen are physically identical. One costs several times the other. The only difference between them is a story about where it came from. That story was the product. That's the whole thing. De Beers never really sold diamonds. It sold belief, and it defended that belief with a warehouse and an ad budget. For 80 years, the belief held because no one could contradict it at scale. Lab-grown diamonds didn't beat De Beers on quality. A GIA-grade lab diamond is a real diamond. They beat it on permission to stop believing. A whole generation looked at two identical stones, saw one cost a fraction of the other, and quietly decided the emperor had no clothes. Or rather, the clothes were real. They just cost a fraction of the price down the street. This is the human stakes part, and it's simpler than you'd think. If you bought a diamond as an investment, I have bad news that a jeweler will confirm the second you try to sell. The resale value was never really there. The forever was always partly for the seller's benefit. A diamond is forever mostly because you're not supposed to find out what it's worth the day after you buy it. Which brings us to the ending, and it's a fitting one. De Beers is no longer the crown jewel of anything. Its parent company, the mining giant Anglo-American, has spent 3 straight years writing down what De Beers is worth. More than $2.5 billion in 2023, nearly $3 billion more in 2024, and down again in 2025, until the whole company is valued at barely $2 billion. And now it's official. Anglo has picked its buyer. It's handing De Beers off for about $1 billion, $750 million up front, the rest promised for later, to a consortium led, and this is the part you couldn't script, by one of De Beers' own former bosses. Sit with that number. The company that convinced the entire planet a common rock was priceless. An empire once valued at around $18 billion is being sold for about $1 billion on layaway for roughly the price of a single mediocre tech startup. The most valuable brand fiction of the 20th century is now a clearance item. De Beers spent 80 years and untold billions teaching the entire planet that a common rock is priceless. It succeeded so completely that it never had to worry about competition, until the competition simply grew the same rock in a lab and let everyone in on the secret. The rarity was the product. The rarity was always the product, and you cannot hoard a thing that anyone can make. A diamond, it turns out, is forever. Its price was not. Next time, we'll look at another company that sold you certainty and quietly couldn't deliver it, the insurance industry, and the math that guarantees the house wins, the bet you were told protects you.